we're live. Hello.
Ta-da. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Let's just go. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to TSFU, the podcast. And I am one of your hosts, Ashley Love Richards.
And I'm Fallon Maury.
And we are today recapping episodes 3 and 4 of the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. If you didn't catch our first recap, that is already up. I think I'm actually going to chop it into 2 videos, Fallon, since I put it as 2 episodes on the feed. So I think what we're going to do tonight, so that the video is not too long for the replay crew, and so that you and I can take a 5-minute break in between, or 10-minute, whatever we decide on. We are going to take a quick break in between episodes 3 and 4. So that way, if anybody wants to tune out at that point, they can easily catch the next one in the morning. And it'll be easier on our editors on the podcast, too. So
That's true.
Yeah, so I think that we should just get into it because
Totally agree.
it's Monday night.
We all know why we're here and what we're here for.
So if you guys didn't listen to or watch the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard episode. Let me say it again. If you did not listen to our episodes or watch our recap on YouTube of the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, then you probably want to do that first, or you might be coming in a little bit blind, unless you know the story. But gosh, a lot happened in 1 and 2 that nobody knew until this documentary. Oh no, I just lost sound. I just lost your sound.
Oh, am I
you were
back?
muted. Yeah.
Oh, weird. I was just saying, and a lot of heartbreaking stuff in episodes 3 and 4 as well.
Oh, yay. Does it get better, aka worse?
Yes.
It always does.
And yes.
How does that every time?
I don't know.
Every goddamn time. So, a couple things that we learned in episodes 1 and 2. Trigger warning, we sadly learned sorry, I got a little technical note. Trigger warning for child SA. We learned in episode 1 or 2 that Gypsy was sexually abused by her grandfather, Dee Dee's dad, Claude, who is a fucking denying piece of garbage. And I am not a fan at all of that whole family. I think it's bad news bears over there. And what else? That's the one that's coming to my mind most, because that's what happened in the episode that I covered.
A long history of her, what she's experienced up through when she is in her late teens, including, her first forays into romance, meeting a guy at a convention that was 35 and thought she was 15. She's shaking her head like, I don't know if I should be saying this or.
Oh, no. I'm just shaking my head like, oh, it's so gross.
Oh, I was like, what does that sign mean? Were you like, no, stop.
I didn't love at all that Gypsy came, or that Dee Dee came and took Gypsy from that man's house and then severely abused her and chained her to a fucking bed. But I don't trust that guy at all. So.
Yeah, not at all. I have to make one quick technical adjustment. So behind the scenes, I need to stop my camera for a second.
Okay. Ooh, what's happening with the camera off, you guys? I don't know. Oh, and the mic went off. That's mysterious. Okay, real quick.
I'm back.
So Renee said her grandfather is a map. So you guys, a map is what pedophiles have tried to rebrand themselves to. Minor attracted person. So, Renee, I do appreciate you trying to use maybe more politically correct lingo, but with pedophiles, personally, I'm going to call them what they are: dirty, dirty fucking pedophiles. Ugh. Although, you know what? I do have to say, I guess it is worth mentioning that they're very sick people, right? And that's not something that they choose.
Mm-mm.
But I don't think I
The
can get on.
disorder itself, not like necessarily a pedophile, isn't necessarily somebody who acts on it, but he did act on it, right?
Yes. So, it's I don't want to. I don't want to put down people. I don't know if I can get on the minor attracted person acronym
I feel like
agenda.
it. I
What
feel
about
like
you?
it. No, I feel like it sort of makes it very, like it's trying to make it into a social norm. Like as if I would say, okay, I'm more attracted to tall people. That's
Yeah.
somebody just being like, I'm just more attracted to minors, which is not acceptable.
Right. Also, they're trying to say it's a sexuality, like being
Yeah.
homosexual, and that is no.
No.
No, because you have a disorder. You're very
Mhm.
sick. Something's very wrong with you.
Mhm.
People in the LGBTQAI plus community are not. So, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think you can get on that. Oh, Renee's just like better at YouTube than me. That's all.
Ah, okay.
That
Yeah, thank you, Renee. We're both pretty bad at YouTube.
Oh my God, I'm the worst. Thanks, Renee. She's like, dude, you guys, it's because they don't like that. Yeah. No, Renee, you're right.
You're totally
Damn it.
right. That's
But
just a hot spot for
yeah,
us.
I guess though, I had an opinion about that. I was like, no. Yeah, because I guess I heard about that pretty recently, and
Yeah.
it was a no for me, dog. Like, yeah.
So if we want to talk about, if we don't want to talk about it, but if we're talking about it, the episode actually starts out where we left off with Dan. If you want me to
Yes.
jump in,
I would love you to.
So you'll notice that these sometimes flip. Gypsy in the actual documentary, it will like get all the way up to a really exciting point in the story. It'll break for a commercial and then come back with like thoughts from Gypsy on her imminent release or parole hearing. So sometimes you'll notice it'll like jump away and come back to the story. That's just how it's done. Just so you don't think that I was nuts when I took these notes. So it starts out with her talking about how her earliest parole date is at the end of 2023. And Dee Dee had been telling her that there were things that she would never do, but she now expects to be a fully independent person a year after she is out of prison. She then you see Gypsy talking to her dad, and her dad, on the phone call, and her dad says that he wants to be a big part of her life when she gets out. And she says, I want to be real with you. Mom told me so much crap, and I need you to tell me what's true and what was a lie, because she heard so many bad things about her dad growing up. So she sort of like is talking through this with her dad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Her dad admits, at this point, he says, I should have checked to see what was wrong if I had a suspicion. It was hard for him not to believe Dee Dee because she had doctors, neighbors, and friends on her side, and it's hard not to believe her lies. So then Gypsy goes into talking about Dan. If you remember, Dan is the man. Dan is the man. I didn't mean to rhyme. Dan is the guy.
Dan the man.
Dan is not the man.
Dan,
so
no.
not the man. Dan's the dude that she met at the convention that she ran away with. She had left her mom a note that said, basically, it wasn't disrespectful. At the end of the last episode, she left a note that said, I'm 19 now. I know that I'm 19 and it's time for me to move on with my life. Dee Dee woke up and noticed she wasn't there and found Gypsy's cell phone, which had slipped out of her book bag. Answers the question we had about how she knew. Dee Dee finds the messages between Gypsy and Dan and begins to call all Dan's mutual friends from the convention. And one of them told her where Gypsy was. So Gypsy says Dee Dee arrived at 8 o'clock the next morning, and she told her mom, I am 19 and I can be here if I want to. So Dee Dee asks her for where are my pills, where
Hold
are my
on.
money.
Do we know when Dee Dee... God damn, there's a lot of names going on. Do we know when Gypsy told Dan that she was 19?
At some point, like earlier in I think on the phone call, because he was saying to her, or earlier in their communications, we don't know exactly when, but it was before this, because Dan was saying to her, you're an adult and you can leave anytime you want to. So at some point he switched over to
But he
knowing
thought
she
she
was
was
19
15 when they first
when they
started chatting.
when they first met.
Okay, yeah.
So
And do we know what Dan was on parole for?
no,
Okay.
no, it doesn't go into it here. I'm sure
Okay.
we could look it up, but we don't do that during Borbs.
We don't do that. And for anybody who's like, what the fuck is a Borb?
Sorry.
We love acronyms because we're very culty like that. Binge or bust. And it's usually what we do for documentaries when we cover them on the podcast. We recap them and then we let you know if we think it's a binge or bust. And we tell you at the end. But I don't know, Fallon. I'm going to say it's still a binge for me because hearing from Gypsy in her own words is, I think, so important. Obviously, I love that people are listening to our recap, and I understand some people don't have access to Lifetime. So it's great to make that available. It's great to be able to make the episodes accessible to people in that way. But Gypsy has said in a few interviews that what's been one of the most difficult things for her has been hearing everybody else tell her story and get it wrong and speculating about what she must have been thinking and feeling. And she's like, fuck, man, can I tell my story? Can I tell my story? So exactly. I say it's a binge for that reason because we are recapping, but hearing it in Gypsy's own words, I think is really important for her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go back. Dee Dee arrives at Dan's house at 8 o'clock the day after Gypsy ran away. And Gypsy tells her mom, I know that I'm 19 now and I can do whatever I want. So Dee Dee basically is like, okay, fine. Give me my pills and all my money. Gypsy hands it over and then says, can I talk to you outside? And she says, okay, fine. If you come back, I will allow you to see Dan. So she agrees to go back with her because she knew her whole survival was dependent on her mom. And she, on the way home, says, well, I confronted her directly on the way home for the first time about my age. So we stop in a Staples, like an office store, and Dee Dee takes in a copy she happens to have of Gypsy's birth certificate, comes out like 20 minutes later, and now it says her birthday is 1995. And they show like a close up, and it's very clear that it was like white out and somebody carefully like made it look like a typed 5 and not a 1. And she hands her a copy and was like, you're not 19. See, you're only 15.
Oh my God. The fucking helplessness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in fact, this is something I was thinking about last time. Janice Yorker, who is the expert that they talk to a lot on FDIA, said that
Factitious,
she thinks disorder. Factitious disorder imposed on another. It's the common term for Munchausen by proxy. Though if you do watch the documentary, they use the term Munchausen's throughout.
Well, it's not really it's the uncommon name,
yes.
the FDIA. It's the new name.
The newer name.
We're trying to be up to the times with the DSM, Diagnostic Statistic Manual of Psychological Disorders. That's a mouthful. But
It's a
yeah,
lot.
they've changed it to FDIA. Yeah.
So she thinks that Gypsy probably also had Stockholm syndrome because it's clear that Gypsy really did, in some weird way, love her mother despite what was done to her. And she felt like she owed her mom for her survival, even though her mom was the one keeping her entrapped there. So you sound like you want to say something.
Oh, just we have like such a fucked up bond with our parents. It's like somehow she still loved her. It's like, no, I know it's crazy. Like our parents, can I get an amen? Like can do pretty fucked up stuff, and we still love them. It's really annoying.
I know.
It's very frustrating.
Super annoying.
Yeah.
Love you,
Yeah.
Mom. Sorry. Dee Dee tells Gypsy when they get home that she has to take a pregnancy test, and Gypsy's like, I didn't have sex, and Dee Dee says, well, you can get pregnant by kissing. So she takes a pregnancy test, which is of course negative. Janice Yorker says again that what Dee Dee was really afraid of missing out on was her daughter's sickness and all of the things that sickness brought her. Because once she no longer has a sick daughter, she no longer has attention and she doesn't have money. At
And
this
then
point,
it's next best if you can't have a sick daughter.
what? Dead daughter? Yeah. No.
Yeah. We said in the previous episode that Gypsy herself stated that she felt that towards the end it was her or her mother. And me and Fallon were like, boom, we thought so.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets super, if it wasn't already sad and fucked up, it is super sad and fucked up. Dee Dee bound Gypsy to the bed for 2 weeks with handcuffs and a dog leash. The dog leash was connected to Dee Dee so that Dee Dee could feel every movement Gypsy made in the bed next to her. She said that Dee Dee would not feed her every day, but would do things like eat whatever she wanted in front of Gypsy to manipulate and control her. At this point, they ask her cousin, like, did you know about this? And he's like, no, I didn't know, but I can't say I'm surprised. I'm surprised it happened, but she was a little nuts, essentially.
Her whole family, Dee Dee's whole family hates her.
Yeah.
In case anybody missed it, they flushed her ashes down the toilet because literally nobody wanted them, and nobody, I guess, could be bothered to go like dump them outside on the grass.
Wow.
Because flushing them down the toilet is kind of like the most disrespectful thing you can do.
Yeah. Christy, they interview Christy, her I want to say her real mom, like her stepmom who has always loved and cared about her. Christy said she was really angry about it, and what's worse is she knew that Gypsy didn't have to go through it. Ms. Yorker said that this act was a very clear communication from Dee Dee at this point. This is what happens when you go over the line, and worse could also happen to you.
Yeah.
Gypsy's
Terrifying.
Oh yeah, it's awful. Gypsy says her mom knew how to break her, and she thought this is not going to end. She said that before this, Dee Dee had never physically abused her, like she didn't hit her, but after this, Dee Dee starts hitting Gypsy with anything she can find when she wants to. Dr. Fabian is interviewed again. He's the psychologist that Gypsy had been talking to before her parole hearing. He said that this is a clear mark of a mother with no conscience, the chaining up portion. Gypsy spent 2 weeks begging her mother, and after apologizing and begging her, she started allowing her little freedoms like going to the bathroom on her own and taking baths on her own until finally she took Gypsy off the chain completely. Whew.
Jesus, dude.
I know. So around this time, also, Dee Dee starts keeping a knife on her bedside table and threatened Gypsy that if she attempted to run away, she would be punished for it. And you don't have to be a detective to put my knife that I now keep by my bed and my threat of punishment with a threat of bodily harm. So of course now Gypsy is like terrified because now her mom is threatening her in not those many words with a knife.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wow. It just like everything she says, it's just like, could she get worse? Dr. Fabian notes that because Dee Dee was very controlling, but she was also super dependent on Gypsy, this was definitely going to always end up being a situation where there was a lot of abuse beyond even the medical, I think. Gypsy says at this point her mother put a voodoo hex on her. She printed out a picture of Gypsy and Dan, and then she made Gypsy give her some of her menstrual blood. Then she went into town and bought a cow tongue and put them all in a jar, buried it in the backyard, and told Gypsy that she would never, ever find love. At this point, Gypsy gets visibly upset and starts almost crying because she said, like, things don't always work out for me in the love department. And I always go back to, like, what if this curse and stuff was true? Because her mom was just, like, so scary to her, you know? Whoa.
I'm just okay. I'm thinking about how, I don't cry that often during recordings about cases. Like, we talk about pretty gnarly shit. If I cried all the time, I cry enough on my own time. Okay, I don't need to take up your time with it. But Gypsy's case has made me cry a couple times. The other day, I saw her in an interview and they asked, what's something that people always get wrong about your story that you really want them to get right? And she said, well, everybody thinks my mom was just this evil person. And, she was a very sick woman. And I don't think that she wanted to hurt me. It's called mental illness for a reason. God, how many times did I watch this clip? I'm quoting pretty close. But like, I've forgiven less for less. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was just like, Jesus Christ, you are so. She inspires me more than Jesus Christ. Hey, everybody's got their person.
Everyone's got, as Depeche Mode says, everyone, your own personal Jesus, right?
Yeah. That just that made me cry when she said that. I was like, how dare her be that forgiving? Like, who does that? Anyways.
So Gypsy talks a little about, I'm not like frowning your pain. Like, this is just.
Oh, no, I know.
I'm not just like, all right, moving
going. No, it's, and it's
Gypsy.
An episode. We got to roll.
I know. Gypsy, I'm crying on the inside. So Gypsy, I always tell her that. Gypsy tells a little bit about her love life at this point. She says she was written to in prison a lot over the years. A man named Ken started writing to her and they technically got engaged back in 2019, but he left her and it didn't work out. She thinks that because Dee Dee didn't want her to find love or be happy, that it stuck. Her cousin is interviewed again and says, well, Dee Dee was always playing with magic and Ouija boards and stuff when we were kids. And so putting spells on Gypsy was weird, but not out of bounds. And that like maybe she could really do mind control. And that's how she controlled like the doctors and the people around her.
Well, I think it is important to note that voodoo is a very it's a very serious spirituality, or
yes,
what religion for some people, so I don't think it's I mean, I don't think like the devil is coming to get anyway. I don't really I don't believe in like particular types of evil, but I do believe in good and bad energy or whatever, and it does seem that people have the ability to harness that. So I wouldn't be so quick to discount and be like, oh, Dee Dee's just doing voodoo, because remember, they're from Louisiana. They're like from deep in the bayou, and that is very common there.
Oh, yeah. And when, just to clarify, if anyone's listening, when we say that Gypsy says she put, those are her words. She put a voodoo hex on her. We're not using that as like a slang term or anything.
Oh, I didn't think so, but that is a
No,
good clarification.
I want to clarify that was
Yeah.
right out of Gypsy's mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Dr. Fabian is like listening to all this is like a scene out of Carrie where the mom is super controlling and, you know, locking her daughter in a closet to pray, but in a very different way, obviously. It's at this point that Gypsy says the relationship broke for her to an extent. She thought, you know, okay, when she was thinking about her options, she says, like, what if I wait till Dee Dee dies naturally? But that could be when Dee Dee's like 70, and then Gypsy would do this her whole life and she would be too old to live a life on her own. So she started to weigh out the pros and cons of different options and what she was going to do and how she was going to get away. She starts thinking about how she starts then talking like, how do I want to go in my parole hearing? She says, do I want to go in as a big, strong, tough bitch? Or do I want to be vulnerable? Because, you know, I am vulnerable, but it also got me really hurt when I was younger. So
I want to say number 2 though for the parole hearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm guessing that's what she did since she got paroled.
Yeah. And they actually talk a little bit about like what she was able to do in her parole hearing. So in the next episode. After the chaining up, Dee Dee made sure that Gypsy had no way to reach out to anyone. Dee Dee bought a gun and brought it home, and that scared Gypsy because she thought, okay, she's got a gun now. She might actually kill me. She wanted to reach out to other people, but felt like she couldn't. So, of course, now she feels super trapped.
She just buys a gun? How fucking threatening is that? All of a sudden, there's a knife next to the bed, and now we got firearms in the house?
Yeah.
That's so unsettling. Not that I'm questioning Gypsy, but is there any like receipts of that? Or did they ever find the gun, or do you know?
We get into later what happened with the gun,
Okay,
actually.
Okay. Shh, Ashley. All right.
I get it. You're so excited and I love it. But
okay.
We will get there.
I didn't watch it because I was like, Fallon's going to tell me. Okay.
So next we hear from a woman named Bracy Bay, who's a manager at the local movie theater where Gypsy and Dee Dee would go sometimes 3 times a week. She said she's thought over the years, you know, if Gypsy pulled me aside and told me, would I even believe her? And she said, honestly, she probably wouldn't, because Dee Dee had set it up so well that everybody thought Gypsy was mentally challenged. That's the word she uses.
Oh,
so
my God.
Probably a lot of people wouldn't have believed her, which is what Gypsy was afraid of. She shows all these albums. Gypsy was a part of a lot of movie theater promotions for them. They would do like special princess nights. They did I think like a Wizard of Oz night or something where Gypsy was on a poster for it. She said that at the same time that Dee Dee was telling her that Gypsy had leukemia, she said her sister was also actually suffering from leukemia, and it really like struck a chord with her because she knew what her sister was going through, which makes me even more mad because this woman is actually suffering and Gypsy did not have leukemia.
Ooh. Yeah.
So Marcia Smith, who was the woman that, you know, they were close with, that Gypsy called Nona. She was a close family friend. She said Dee Dee really wanted everyone to believe that they were absolutely destitute. Dad's out of the picture. He doesn't help. And Gypsy's dad says, I was giving them everything I possibly could. I gave them $1,100 or $1,200 a month, which out of his salary was a lot, considering he had a family to care for as well.
That's like my whole salary. Personally, you know. Hey,
yeah.
and this is in the early 2000s, right? So
yeah.
Inflation.
But that's still a lot to give to somebody, and he said he just did it because he knew Dee Dee couldn't work because she was taking care of Gypsy. The public defender who defended Gypsy in her trial said Dee Dee's ability to manipulate was unrivaled. People around her thought that she was like the mother of the year, which is what we said. Daughter of the year becomes mother of the year, but they obviously didn't see her manipulative side. Dr. Fabian finally, somebody all these years, finally comes out and says she was a psychopath. Based on everything I've seen, her ability to manipulate, she was a psychopath.
Okay,
We
awesome.
finally said it.
Okay, I'm not trying to diagnose anybody. You know, we always say we're not doctors. What? You guys are surprised? You guys, Fallon has like 2 degrees in psychology.
Just
Okay.
one. Just one. Just one.
Okay, you're one credit shy of having your second, right?
I am.
So just one, but
Yeah,
basically
just one.
But hey, we are definitely not experts, but yeah, it seems like Munchausen exists, or FDIA.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have it, but like the expert, one of the experts they speak to in the documentary says this is the first ever documented case of an FDIA victim killing their abuser to get away from them. So it doesn't surprise me that the abuse was even more severe than a usual case, because Dee Dee was a psychopath. Because, yeah, she killed her mom, too.
Well,
And
they don't say that in this documentary. Well, she tried to kill her. The only one they allude to here is that she tried to kill her stepmom.
Okay, well, she was definitely poisoning her stepmom.
Yeah.
And she allegedly, most likely, killed her own mother via starvation.
Yeah.
True.
So we finally put a name on it. And just to be clear, psychopath is not an actual like diagnosis. It's probably some other disorder that they associate with being a psychopath. But in any case, I feel more comfortable saying it now that a doctor has said it.
Yeah, Dee Dee's fucked.
He says this is because she had no conscience and she would have done, he feels, absolutely anything she needed to keep her daughter under wraps. After Gypsy was chained to the bed, Dee Dee continues this whole thing. No one would love you. Like, no one's going to love you. Dan didn't love you. So Gypsy was like, okay, well, then I'm just going to stop trying to communicate with Dan or everybody. Gypsy one time packed her bag and hid it under the couch, but Dee Dee found her bag that she was going to run away with and confronted Gypsy. Gypsy, at this point, this day, sees the gun on the table. Dee Dee had used it to practice shooting and had left it out. She said she wasn't even thinking. She grabbed it off the table, threatened Dee Dee with it, and pulled the trigger as many times as she could. Some of the bullets hit Dee Dee, but they grazed her and didn't really leave a wound. And at this point, she realized her mom had bought a BB gun. It was not a real gun with working like bullets.
Wait, but she in that moment was gonna.
She said she was
gonna murder Dee Dee.
Yeah, she said it was just like a reaction, and she didn't even realize what she was doing, but she was shocked. She was so shocked that she even pulled the trigger. Christy, when they tell her stepmom Christy, she's like, no, I didn't know that, but good for her.
I love Christy.
She's great.
We are Christy stans.
Yes, absolutely. Now that I know what that word means.
We're so cool.
Every day.
We know slang.
Just a little bit schooled. My son and my husband had to school me at what the Riz is. Like if somebody has the Riz.
I'm sorry. I cannot with that lingo. Are you kidding me? Because you know who says I have Riz?
Who?
People
Kanye.
with no Riz.
All right. I thought you were going to be like Kanye. And then I was going to be like, oh, right. You're gross.
Also, people like Kanye. And that's who I mean. I mean, people like Kanye. I mean,
anyway, that's just like every day you learn something new. So,
hey, I learned something new.
What?
Um, you guys, we're gonna take a chat fact that we're gonna throw in the episode, and we'll give a little shout out. So anybody
Nice.
listening, yeah. So anybody listening on the podcast, we are recording this episode currently live on YouTube, and when we do that, sometimes we get really interesting questions and comments during the live that we just feel that we have to respond to or repeat. So Renee B said, there's a diagnosis for people who seek relationships with other people in prison or with people in prison. Hybrid topophilia. You say that. You say it.
Hybridopophilia.
Good job.
Thank you.
Hey, we learned something new. Cool.
It's awesome. Thank you. So Gypsy asked her mom at this point, why is my life like this? Why does it have to be like this? And Dee Dee kept just reiterating, Gypsy needs special care. She's sick. I take good care of you. Gypsy says at this point, she's so indoctrinated that she half believed her again and started to cry and apologize to her mom. Dee Dee gets out of the situation because obviously she can't be like, oh yeah, my daughter in the wheelchair was trying to run out the door on her two legs and shot me. So Dee Dee lies and says a man in a parking lot held her up and shot her with a BB gun. This stopped other people from knowing that Gypsy had rebelled, and it made people feel bad for Dee Dee. So
Dee Dee loves feeling bad for. Nope, that's not how you say words. She
Dee Dee,
loves people feeling bad for her. That is literally Dee Dee's entire life, what Dee Dee fucking thrives on.
it's a combo of I love people feeling pity for me, and I also love that people know I'm giving all for my child, and we're suffering, but I'm just such a good mom.
Right.
So Gypsy wanted to go online again, and Dr. Fabian says something common with trauma victims is that some of them will dissociate as a way to repress trauma, and that's likely what Gypsy started to do. So she, at this point, this is where she gets on a computer after her mom goes to bed, and she started chatting with her neighbor. Her neighbor suggested she go onto a site called christiandatingforfree.com, which is where she comes across Nicholas Godejohn's profile. And after 2 weeks of chatting, they make their relationship Facebook official.
I'm sorry. Isn't it kind of crazy that they met on a Christian dating site of all dating sites to meet on? Listen, I've been on Plenty of Fish and Tinder and Butterscotch, or I don't know. What are they called? I thank God Bumble.
Oh.
I've been there. It sucks. Oh God. So sorry to people. I mean, listen, whatever. Dating is hard, and I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore. But I've met some psychopaths on those sites. I guess, you think it's going to be all chill on the Christian dating site. No, guys. No.
Well, right away, one of, I guess we'll just call him Nick. So one of Nick's ex-girlfriends messages Gypsy on Facebook, she says he's violent, he's verbally abusive, he's controlling. And Gypsy's like, I just thought she was a jaded ex-girlfriend, and she ignored all the red flags because she thought she'd found her perfect love at first sight. She's been living this fairy tale forever.
All she has seen of love is what her mother has showed her and what's in Disney movies.
Right. Yeah. So the people you love hurt you, except me. And love is like Disney movies, but you're never going to have that because no one will ever want you. That's what she's been told. It's a pretty bleak love outlook. So at this point, somebody's paying attention to her, and she must feel over the moon. She is, Like she has found, I don't know.
This is when she starts talking to Nick.
Yep.
Nick go to John.
So she says, looking back, she was very naive, both with Nick and with her first like prison fiance. So then she says, current day, 6 months earlier, a man named Ryan messaged her. He had heard her story and said he wanted to get to know her. So they started slowly dating. Gypsy says, we're taking it slowly.
Ooh, Gypsy
I
and
know.
Ryan sitting in a tree. Okay, your face is
Me?
not having the vibe of I'm like Gypsy and Ryan. You're like, I know. Okay.
I know.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll keep my mouth shut and keep listening.
I didn't mean it like that.
No, I know, but I don't know what's coming up, and it doesn't.
Nothing with Ryan. It's just this is one of the spots where it goes to the very exciting commercial break, and then they, come back and they're talking about something totally different. So I met this dude named Ryan, and then they snap over and they're like, back to Nick. So it's just
okay.
Like the random little pocket of info that comes totally out of nowhere. So Nick lived with his mother in Wisconsin, so their relationship was completely online. She stole cash from her mother's wallet, and then she traded cash at Walmart for a cell phone. She says it like that, like I traded cash for a cell phone. I think typically that means buying it. Like we didn't barter for the cell phone, we traded cash for it. The dialogue, I know, she's so cute. Like,
you know what? I watched a thing this morning where they were it was so funny. Her and some lady from Lifetime. Now I'm like, whatever, I guess Lifetime is all right. So her and this lady from Lifetime are quizzing each other on slang. So the lady from Lifetime quizzes Gypsy about slang, and Gypsy and I knew roughly the same amount. I was like, what is all this? Riz was one of them. Riz was one of them. And then Gypsy tested her on prison slang.
I would have loved that.
Oh my gosh, it's on her Instagram. It's so funny. She's like, what's a muffin tub or something? The first one is crazy. A cupcake bucket. Something like that. I mean,
you're not up on your prison slang?
I'm not up on any of the slang.
Prison or otherwise.
Yeah.
Prison or free.
Or any.
So Gypsy, she steals cash from her. I said that already. Okay. So after she got her cell phone, she and Nick start talking on Yahoo Messenger, and the dialogue between them started to become about this like fantasy world they were creating together. Going back to what the doctor said, this might be just like a big trauma response for her, is creating a fantasy world. Gypsy said every time she would get on the computer or anything like that, they would argue.
Hold on. Can I just say how many people are in very normal everyday lives and spend so much of their time in fantasy worlds, whether it be video gaming or watching TV or reading? People, I can imagine that Gypsy would have a very strong, not only desire, but need to create fantasy worlds to escape the fucking literal constant hell that she lived in.
I'm sure. I'm not judging fantasy worlds. I play Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh no, I know.
I mean,
you love that
normal.
Shit. Yeah. You guys, she's a dungeon master.
I am.
She puts on the show.
I do.
So,
I mean, not really. I just, whatever. Anyway.
And reality TV.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so real, right?
So
it's not, you guys. Just had a
spoiler. So this is something I didn't know about. Gypsy's mother, at this point, she's 20 years old, or so, and Gypsy's mother scheduled a surgery on Gypsy's throat because it was supposed to explore why Gypsy had such a high-pitched voice. She said it was because of like her larynx didn't close or open correctly or something when she was younger. So Gypsy said she has a huge fear about tubes being put down her throat or needles or anything. So she asked her mom, for all these other procedures, I've been under general anesthesia. Can you please ask them to do that again? And her mom was like, nope, you're old enough to do it where they don't put you out for it.
Hold on. Did she? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just
Absorb that.
Okay, wait. Yeah, sorry. Okay, hold on. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So for all her other procedures, she'd been under general anesthesia, but because she had this big phobia about tubes down her throat, which would be part of that surgery, she asked her mom, can you please ask the doctor to put me under general anesthesia? So her mom's response was, nope, you're old enough now. You don't need that.
Because she's retaliating against her now in every way.
Yep.
What the fuck, dude?
This is the part you're going to like, if you didn't see what I wrote you the other day. My husband was like, stop the video, hold the phone. She said Nick is there for her, and they show a shot of their text messages. And Nick says, I am your twin flame male soulmate.
I did see that, and then I forgot to text you back, but I was laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, of course.
Wild.
He would.
And he said it like that, twin flame male soulmate, not just soulmate.
Yeah, I did see that. And Jesse's here. What's up, Jesse? Who is a Twin Flames universe survivor. And as we know, in that group, they are very, very heteronormative. It has to be the masculine energy and the feminine energy.
They don't go into it further in this documentary. I just found it interesting that we have had, you've had Jesse on and we've talked about the documentary we saw. And I was like, wow, it came up here. It's crazy.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that, and this is actually something that's being talked about a lot in the public, which I'm glad, because I think that I personally think Nick's sentencing is too harsh. Nick, his mom says that I believe that he is on the spectrum and that his mental capacity basically stopped developing around 15. Don't you remember that from the documentary?
I do. Not this documentary, but the other one.
Oh, was it from the other documentary?
The older one, yeah.
So many documentaries.
Unless you've already watched the next 2 episodes, which I have not.
I have not.
Okay. So then we wouldn't know.
So we don't know yet, but he, I think, is of diminished capacity as like to be held in trial to, I think, the same standards as other people. And I don't know. I think that I hope his case gets a little bit re-examined, because I think his sentencing was too harsh. And I'm actually curious to see if what.
I'm curious to see like what.
Do you know what Gypsy thinks? Did she say? Did she say
no,
her?
not in any of these episodes.
Maybe she'll say in my episodes.
Maybe.
Because I haven't heard her opinion yet, actually.
So Gypsy told Nick everything about what she was going through, and he said he would protect her. And her dad says, yeah, it's sad that she decided to open up to him versus like to me. After this is when Gypsy said Nick got weird. That's what she says, weird. You see him saying on a text, Daddy's little princess, and that she should love and worship him completely. She said that there was a phrase she had to say the same way after every conversation, which was, I love you. I love and adore you, my king, charming, good night. Or he would be verbally abusive to her.
Okay, no. So, here's the thing.
She's made a face and said, like, I reject that.
I reject that wholly, because here's the thing. I have seen far too many cases. Cases. I don't know why I said that. I've seen far too many cases of severe abuse done under the guise of BDSM. For anybody who doesn't know, that's bondage, discipline, sadism, masochism. Yes,
Mhm.
that's it. And so Army Hammer, Marilyn Manson, great fucking examples of people using this, you know, sexual style. God.
Hmm?
Hey kids, what's the lingo? Hey, I'm a kid. So when it's SSC, safe, sane, and consensual, then it can, it can be cool. But it's generally used. Unfortunately, it generally attracts a lot of people who just want to
Yeah.
have power over other people, so they make it sexy.
Well, you sort of like guessed at the next thing we were going to talk about. So Gypsy is talking to Dr. Fabian, and he asks about her relationship with Nick. And she says Nick was she describes him as sexualized and says he craved it, talked about it. And before he mentioned it to her, Gypsy had never heard of BDSM, but Nick was into it and started mentioning it to her. She said it made her feel empowered to learn about it. And the doctor said that she was a submissive person anyway. So she was going to be at risk for being in a situation like this where she could be taken advantage of, basically, like you said, like under the guise of somebody saying BDSM is what I'm into.
I think it's unfortunate because I do think that people can feel very empowered on that journey when they're in a certain headspace and then look back and question, because things can get intense in those situations, and with people being tied up and spanked and whipped or whatever that happens in BDSM. I think that sometimes people enjoy something in the moment, and then later they can realize, oh, that was maybe intense. Maybe I wasn't in the right place to
Right.
be doing that. So I can understand how she said it felt. I can understand how she's saying that it felt empowering at first, but obviously that they weren't the right dynamic.
No, it
Not the right
wasn't.
people to be.
It wasn't the right
doing
dynamic
that.
for her. Yeah, because she
No.
said anything he did, whether it was good or bad, she just still looking at him like her, one and only, adoringly. Gypsy said, so then we go to another back from commercial break tangents. Gypsy says that, going into her parole hearing and potential release, she has her dad and stepmother, and that's what she can count on, but she doesn't know if she'll ever get a happy ending. Christy says it breaks her heart that Gypsy's incarcerated because she's gone from one prison to another. And Gypsy says she can only have one brief hug with her family when they come to visit. And the first thing she wants to do when she gets out is just hug her family for like 3 hours. How sweet is that? I know.
Yeah, so I changed a little bit of our production schedule between the time that we talked, and on Friday you're going to hear me talk about Natalia Grace. And girl, I'm going to break your heart. I'm going to break your fucking heart again.
You are.
Hardcore. Oh yeah.
Twice on Fridays, twice on Mondays.
Just I'm getting you, because
I'm sure you will.
yeah.
Yeah. So Gypsy says that she and Nick talked back and forth for 3 years, and finally they came up with an idea to meet in person. So
I had no idea that it
was that long. I thought it was like 6 months. Will you kill my mom? It was not like she didn't suggest it. Nick suggested it, and then she says in the next episode, like that's a joke, but she says in the next episode when they ask her like who came up with the first idea to like your mom not to be alive anymore, and she says it was me. So
yeah, I was gonna say I've heard her claim responsibility for
Mm.
bringing up the idea.
Yeah, that was very passive. I didn't mean to say it like that. But no, it wasn't like a short fueled romance and then there was
Right.
the crime. It was 3 years of talking.
Yeah.
So she had talked back and forth with Nick for 3 years, and the setup was for Nick was going to travel to see her, and they were going to meet at a movie theater because Cinderella, the live action one, was coming out. She thought that maybe Nick could accidentally bump into her and then meet her mother, and she would see what a wonderful person he was. So at the movie theater, he approached and tried to make conversation that was like very awkward, like, how's the weather's really nice outside, and like, and so of course Dee
Sure,
Dee
Dee
is
Dee was thrilled.
yeah, Dee Dee was polite at first, but then she was like, why is this grown adult man at a kid's movie by himself?
Fair question. Hey, you know what?
What?
Disney is for everybody.
I agree. But I mean, that was just
Well,
Dee Dee.
hey.
That was just Dee Dee being a witch about it. I mean, come on.
Dee Dee being Dee Dee.
I mean, I know his pain because I suck at small talk, and I can't imagine walking up to a random person and being like, so nice, nice denim dress, lady. What are you supposed to say?
There's a sky out there.
They
You
play
notice?
movies here. That is so cool. So they had come up, Gypsy and Nick had come up with a plan that Gypsy was going to lose her virginity to him at this movie theater. So this is super romantic.
And how old was she for realsies at this point?
I think like almost 23.
Dude, she was probably so fucking desperate to lose her virginity, like to feel some sort of
physical
intimacy with another person, and just kind of feel like an adult. She's like, yeah, I'll fuck in a men's handicap bathroom if that's what's gotta happen.
So she went to are you looking at my notes? Because I didn't even say men's handicap bathroom, but now I feel like you're looking at my notes.
No, Renee just put it in the chat, actually.
Oh, okay. I can't see the chat, so I'm like, this is the third time
you're like, hey, you sneaky fuck. No, I'm not looking.
So, yeah, y'all, we share a drive, and so our like kind of like implied rule is you don't look at the other person's notes while they're talking.
No spoilies, dude.
So she went to the men's handicapped bathroom stall. She remarks like she was like, I'd never seen a penis before, and there it was.
Was she impressed? Probably not.
Nah, Nick couldn't get an erection. And so they just decided amongst them, okay, I still lost my virginity. Like they decided.
They didn't do anything.
No, because he couldn't get it up.
So they're just like, let's just, you know what? Let's not say we did, kind of thing. So she didn't lose her virginity at the movie theaters.
No.
You know
she
what?
Just decides it.
That happens to a lot of guys. Okay.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying it's weird to be like, okay, well, you still lost your virginity because I wished it so.
I know you're not judging. Just kidding. But yeah, that's.
And Gypsy says, oh, no, there it is. Gypsy says, I thought it was all kind of disgusting. At the end
the bathroom and everything.
No, the whole sex situation. She's like, I just thought the whole thing was like kind of disgusting.
Yeah.
No, I won't. So at the end of the movie, Dee Dee stormed out and when they got home, she started to yell things like Gypsy is a slut. She should have aborted her, and that she is a devil's spawn.
Did she know that she went and hung out in the bathroom with Nick? Or what?
I guess she didn't really go into that. So I'm trying to remember from like the movie or the documentary if she caught them. But anyway, Dee Dee obviously knew something was up. So Gypsy gets back on text and says Dee Dee didn't like him. And you see a text from Nick saying, well, I know now what must be done. And then they start to preview the next episode. And that is the end of episode 3.
Shazam.
Shazam.
Yes, girl. Get it. Pop
know.
it. Lock it. Drop it. I don't know.
It's hard to do in my chair. But if I was standing up, I definitely would do all
it. Right.
3
now.
of those things.
Well, that's great timing because you know, we're not trying to keep these crazy long. So
no.
Awesome. Fallon. I mean, just wow. Am I right?
Wild. It's a wild ride. And the next episode, I would say, if you're thinking about whether you should stay or not, the next episode covers the actual crime itself. So it's getting to the crazy part.
You know you guys want to stay. Oh, won't you stay with me? 'Cause you're all I need. There hadn't been any singing today, and like, whew, thank you. Lord, I needed that.
It was gonna just explode.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So we will be back in 10-ish minutes to the people who are on the live. And yeah, Fallon, 9:15 EST. Sound good?
Sounds great. And then for those that are listening on the podcast, it will not be 10 minutes, but you can probably check out the next episode.
Let's do a like a real podcast outro, if you would.
Well, that was a wild ride. We're going to get more into the next part of our wild ride in episode 4, which will be in our next episode that we release. So come back and join us.
Which will be tomorrow, because this week, well, last week and this week, because last week and this week here at TSFU the podcast, we are the Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Daughters of the Cult. We're the
information
podcast
hub
for we're the hub for those. Yeah. So also, if you guys have heard of Daughters of the Cult, it's on Hulu. It's about Ervil LeBaron, aka the Mormon Manson. He was a fundamentalist Mormon polygamist cult leader with 51 children. He was called the Mormon Manson because he schmurdered a bunch of people, except for he didn't do it. He had everybody else do it for him, like a big baby. And I mean, if you're going to be a fucking serial killer, do it yourself, dick. Or just maybe don't.
Like a baby. I've never heard anybody refer to serial murder in those terms, but I
hate him. He looks like a baby if you look at his picture. But we covered his cult. Fuck, what was it called? God damn it. The LeBaron Group. Gosh, quite a while ago. So we just re-released the episodes where we covered Ervil LeBaron and the LeBaron Group, and then we also covered Ervil's murder of a rival cult leader named Rulin Allred, who was the leader of the Apostolic Brethren United. Nope. The Apostolic United Brethren.
Apostolic.
Fuck off. Yeah, that one. So we talked to Anna LeBaron, who's Ervil LeBaron's daughter. And then we also talked to Bryce Allred, the great-grandson of Rulin Allred, who was the rival cult leader that Ervil murdered. Had murdered. So it was like, hey, I'm Anna, and my dad killed your great-grandpa. And Bryce is like, I'm Bryce, and my great grandpa was murdered and your dad did it. And then we had this like beautiful conversation about how everybody like left their perspective cults and how they're just amazing people. And so our 2-part episode about that whole story and blood atonement and celestial babies and all that kind of shit is out already on the podcast. And tomorrow, no. And also already out is an interview with Anna and an interview with Anna and Bryce that I was just talking about. It's amazing. So keep your eye on the feed for all updates on the Mormon Manson, Ervil LeBaron, and Daughters of the Cult, and Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for episode 4.
It feels like an inappropriate theme podcast to sign out with a mother and a mother lover because of the topic.
I don't even know what. Yeah,
feels like a bad.
That's not the one today.
Milk was a bad choice.
Milk was a bad choice. Totally.
So
right.
It's not a cult. It's a podcast.
But really, it's your one-stop shop for all updates on Gypsy Rose and Daughters of the Cold, and next week, Natalia Grace.
Woo.
Because it's so much, and we're here for it all. All right, love you guys. Bye. Shantae, what do you want on a shirt? I have to pull up a few comments. Alex came. Hi, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Renee said Fallon is amazing. I thought you might like to see that one.
Wow. Thank you.
Shantae wants something on a t-shirt, but I don't know
what do you want on
what.
a t-shirt?
I don't know. We say so many funny things, you know. It's like I don't even remember.
I can't keep track.
Let us know in the comments for the next episode because
Or maybe
I
if
actually
you-
didn't
if you
schedule
don't-
this stream yet. I didn't schedule this stream, so I'm going to schedule it for 7:20, so we have 8 minutes. Does that sound
Maybe
good,
it's
Fallon?
your comment about being a baby.
The
For
big
referring
okay.
people.
Yeah, that's right. The big baby comment. He had other people murder for him like a big baby. Yeah.
All right.
I like that. Okay, you guys. So we will see you in 8 minutes. Bye.